All right. So for today's agenda, we'll be talking about three topics. So the first is a deep dive with our speaker, Dave Smith from the Chicago Department of Transportation, who will be talking about the annual crash report that was released this fall and just kind of going over a little bit of the report. And then we have Kiana with Project Sidewalks at UIC, who's going to talk about some opportunities that they have happening this fall and winter, and then just some advocacy hot topics after the presentations to uh, for people to find out kind of how to stay active with what's going on with advocacy and policy. And with that, I will hand it over to Dave.
Hey, thanks, Alex. Good afternoon, everyone. Share my screen. Okay. Um, yeah, thanks everyone for joining. My name is Dave Smith with the Chicago Department of Transportation. I manage, direct our Complete Streets program for the city of Chicago. And so we're within our group, we're really focused on improving safety, accessibility, mobility for all Chicago residents and visitors of the city and every neighborhood throughout the city. And so things like expansion of our cycling network, uh, pedestrian safety improvements, transit improvements, traffic safety, traffic calming improvements are all part of the Complete Streets program. And it's been a really exciting several years. And one of our latest initiatives from just in the last month or 2 months was the release of the Chicago traffic crashes annual report. And so I'll walk through this document, just give a high level overview of it, and then happy to answer any questions that come up, Alex. Um, just real quick for awareness, you can find this report on the city's website. If you go to, you can go to chicago.gov/complete streets and it'll take you to this main page. Or if you go to chicago.gov, and then under government, transportation, the first tile is a link to our, gets you into like our Complete Streets set of web pages. And we've got a ton of information. This is a really great resource for folks around traffic safety, cycling infrastructure, pedestrian transit, and projects. And right at the front, we've got a link to the traffic crash report. It's also, if you click on traffic safety, there's a lot of information on this page that's going to be useful for folks, and then also a link to the report. So the report, it is structured in this way where we outline really how we're using data to guide investments and to make decisions on where and how to um, invest in our infrastructure and to make our streets and public spaces safer for everybody. So there's a little bit of a walkthrough and what that looks like. Some highlights around the key issues when it comes to traffic safety, that the trends and attributes around traffic crashes that we see as the most prevalent and the most important to address and to be cognizant of. And then we've got sections where we highlight what these investments look like on the street. And so highlighting various projects and programs and the impacts that they've had in different neighborhoods and on different corridors. And then we got a whole bunch of pages at the end, which I'll flip through, which are we've called the appendix, but it's basically a lot of like charts and graphs and tables that summarize traffic crashes within the city of Chicago and different contributing factors and attributes. This is a report that we are intending to release every year, and will be updated, highlighting all new projects, new findings from our traffic crash analysis, and new details on those data sets. So anticipated release date is going to be roughly the same, late summer to early fall next year. So, you know, safe traffic safety is really at the center of everything that we're doing at CDOT, and we're really seeing the results. When we look at 2023 compared to 2021, which was the height of traffic crashes around the country, we've seen a 27% reduction in traffic fatalities in the last 2 years, which is really incredible. There's a lot of more work to do. But what we see by that number is validation that when we implement street infrastructure that prioritizes all users, particularly those who are most vulnerable, when we enact policies and establish processes that center us around traffic safety, we see the results. So 27% reduction in traffic fatalities compared to a 5% reduction across the country. And when you start to look at other peer cities, other large cities, this reduction really stands out. Again, there's a lot of work to do, but it's a sign that what we're doing is having a major impact and that we really need to keep the work going. So a couple of things here, and the ways that we use crash data, we use it to identify and develop programs. So something like our protected bike lane initiative comes out of data analysis, understanding that when we implement protected bike lanes, it has a really significant safety and mobility benefit, not just for people riding a bike, but for all users on our roadway. Also, the development of our left turn traffic calming program really was a direct result of analyzing pedestrian crashes and looking at intersections and the circumstances by which pedestrians are seriously injured and killed. Left turns are very prevalent, and so we developed a program and have really expanded that incredibly over the last 2 years. We use traffic crash data to shape design by, that can be project specific or across a program to make sure that we are implementing designs at intersections and other locations that really make the street safer for everybody. And then we use the crash data to assess the success of a project. So through before and after evaluations has been really something that we've ramped up in the last couple of years. And again, it really, I think, is helpful for advocate community activists and others to really make sure that we are demonstrating to the broader public that these projects are working and it's a benefit, whether you live on the street, you live in the neighborhood, you visit the neighborhood, whether you're biking, walking, driving. Complete Streets projects provide a holistic benefit for everybody, no matter how you're getting around and no matter where you live. And on the right here, we do this type of analysis at the citywide scale, at the project level scale, or like a corridor, but then also utilizing crash data to help influence design at specific points along a street. This graphic here just kind of takes us through our investment framework. We receive the crash data through a combination of the Chicago Police Department and the Illinois Department of Transportation. We do a pretty in-depth analysis throughout the year, and then once the data set is finalized through the state. And then we identify a variety of trends. The three trends that we have highlighted in this document and on a lot of our materials are speed and size. So how fast people are driving has an incredible, the highest determining factor in terms of whether a crash happens and also the severity of the crash. Size referring to both the size of vehicles, which many of us know have been getting larger and larger. That is something that is regulated at the federal level and something that we have less control over at the city level. But as the size of vehicles increase, Um, the it really highlights the importance of safe speed and predictable speeds because as the vehicle size increases, it takes less speed to seriously injure somebody. But in addition to the size of the vehicles, we also talk about the size of our streets, and there's a direct correlation between, larger roadways and increased likelihood of severe crashes. Um, Reckless driving encompasses a few different aspects, including disobeying traffic signals and stop signs, or things like driving on, up onto the sidewalk or into a bus stop, um, and really like clear, egregious behavior. This is something that is a real issue that we see happening in our most serious traffic crashes. And then persistent inequities in terms of geography, but also people, race, and ethnicity. And out of that analysis, we identify these key strategies for how we can make our streets safer, reducing conflicts and exposure, improving visibility, managing speeds, a focus on vulnerable users, and then we also include building community partnerships. That's been a hugely important aspect of the work that we're doing is expanding the tent of who's involved and who has input on these projects and really connecting the dots between traffic safety, transportation, and issues like um, public health, economic development, access to employment, access to education, affordability, youth engagement. The list goes on and on. All of these really top of mind quality of life issues that so many folks around the city are working on. They all have an inherent aspect of mobility and transportation and the ability to move around our communities in a safe way. And from those strategies, we've developed our design elements, and we continue to explore and develop new strategies to achieve uh, safer streets. So raised crosswalks, we're doing a whole lot of these in the last year or two, bus boarding islands, protected bike lanes, etc. And this report features a whole bunch of projects throughout the city here on the right, later in the document that reflect those design elements. And this is by no means every project that we've done. This is a small sample because there's just so much work happening in terms of expansion of protected bike lanes, neighborhood greenways, the cycling network, pedestrian improvements, uh, bus stop accessibility improvements. There's just a ton of work happening. It's been a very exciting time. We've got some real high level stats here on 2023. In 2023, there were 136 people killed uh, in traffic crashes in Chicago. It does not include expressways. It includes DuSable Lakeshore Drive, but does not include the interstate system. So these are all on city streets, and that represents, as I was mentioning, a 27% reduction from 2021. You can see that here in the charts. In 2023, we break this out by mode and map it out across the city. And you can see that there are areas where traffic fatalities are concentrated, and it is also an issue that impacts every community and all parts of our city. Additionally, in addition to traffic fatalities, we look closely at serious injuries. Serious injuries were also down in 2023 during that period, which is a good thing. You can see here on the right, we've mapped out some hot spots of Central Business District is a big one that shows up just based on the volume of people and activity, but you also see a concentration in Garfield Park neighborhood, North Lawndale, Austin, as well as Greater Grand Crossing and kind of around the Dan Ryan um, uh, on the south side. One thing that I'll highlight here that is a good sign and worth noting is that this chart here shows the number of fatal and serious injury crashes. That's what KSI stands for. And then this orange line is a trend line indicating the share of total traffic crashes. What percentage of those traffic crashes resulted in a serious injury or a fatality? And you can see that trend line going down over the last 3 years. And that's again a really good sign. Part of this, the core of whether it's Vision Zero or Safe Systems, which are international federal um, programs. The core of those are that the idea that humans make errors, that people are going to make mistakes, and that crashes are going to happen. But the goal is to ensure that when those mistakes are made, that people are not killed or seriously injured. So it's a very positive sign and something we're going to continue to track. You know, what share of traffic crashes are resulting in serious injuries, and we want to continue to see that number go down. I mentioned the three key issues here. Speeding, about 70% of traffic fatalities involved speeding. Um, but an even higher percentage, 84% of traffic fatalities involved reckless driving. And that is a real significant issue in Chicago and in cities across the country. Persistent inequities highlighted a minute ago, some geographic areas, but also, there's definitely a racial inequity aspect to this. Black Chicagoans are about 4 times more likely to be killed in a traffic crash than other residents. And we've got a lot of information both on this and details on this, both in the report and on the website. So it's definitely worth checking out. You can see also about 20% of traffic fatalities involved a driver disregarding a stop sign or a traffic signal. The other piece too under inequities that I would note here is you really see senior citizens overrepresented in the pedestrian fatalities that are occurring. We do highlight the Belmont-Cragen community, which I think speaks really well to building community partnerships. We've seen a lot of positive impact in terms of mobility and traffic safety within the Belmont-Cragen community. This is the first neighborhood where we piloted a neighborhood bike network program a couple years ago, where we partnered with some really great and important community organizations. We partnered with young people, with high school students, and we basically identified and built out about 15 miles or so of bicycle infrastructure within a year and a half, brought Divvy to the neighborhood, installed, over 100 bike racks in a very short amount of time, pedestrian improvements and traffic calming around Hanson Park. Um, all of this stuff has resulted in a much safer community. Belmont-Cragen has historically been designated as a high crash community area. And so it's really positive to see some of these results taking place. And a really important part of that has been the work that's been happening within the neighborhood and the partnership that we've had with the community. I won't spend much time on these strategies, but there's a lot of good information in here. But these are kind of the big bucket things that we can do to make our streets safer, reducing conflict and exposure. So we do that through, whether it's protected bike lanes and having curb separated bike lanes or pedestrian bump outs or refuge islands, but really providing designated space for vulnerable users and really organizing the street in a way that everybody knows exactly where they should be has been incredibly positive. All of those things improve visibility of users, help to reduce speeds, and keep people safe. And then we've just got examples of some key complete streets elements, some of which I've mentioned, and how they work and some of the results. Um, I mentioned the left turn traffic calming program. This is one that's gotten actually a lot of attention in the last 2 years, which is great. We have, in the last 2 years, we've implemented this at over 65 intersections. We've got a whole bunch of this coming to the South Pulaski corridor, which Active Transit's been involved with this, along with community groups like the Southwest Collective and a lot of neighbors around Pulaski, south of the Stevenson, where we've really seen a number of serious traffic crashes and a history of traffic crashes. So we've partnered with the neighbors to walk the whole corridor. We attended a series of 8 community walks along with the Southwest Collective and talked with neighbors about how we can make intersections safer. And so we're rolling out some rapid delivery improvements, including left turn traffic calming this month. And then we'll be following that up with a resurfacing project and really formalizing those improvements with concrete elements planned for 2025. Here's some information here and some photos from the last meeting that we were at with the neighborhood. There's a lot of examples here that are certain I could talk forever about that are really worth highlighting. Central Park by the Garfield Park Conservatory, raised crosswalks, protected bike lanes, pedestrian refuge islands. Jackson Boulevard and Columbus Park on the west side have been really important projects. And you can see with some of the notes here, these projects were really focused from a pedestrian standpoint. As an example, we're focused on shortening the crossing distance. And these projects, we have the ability to take, an existing crosswalk and reduce that exposure to moving traffic by 25%, 33%, up to 50%, depending on the location. And we've done a lot around with a big focus around schools and parks. And so we've got some really great examples here. Kelly High School is at South California by Archer. We implemented this summer, right before school started, actually, a raised crosswalk on California, connecting Kelly Park to Kelly High School. And Ruggles Elementary School, this is at just north of 79th Street by the Dan Ryan. We've implemented a series of pedestrian improvements, lowered speed limits on the residential streets, and we actually have a project that's under construction right now on 79th Street, east of the Red Line station to Cottage Grove, where we are implementing pedestrian bump outs, bus boarding islands, and in-lane bus stops and intersection improvements. And so between the school zone effort on the neighborhood streets, plus the significant safety improvements and accessibility improvements for transit on 79th Street, it really makes for a great comprehensive effort. 79th Street is one of the highest ridership bus routes in the city, and it has a connection, really important connection to the Red Line. 79th Street is also a corridor where historically there have been a number of really serious pedestrian safety concerns. Portage Park Elementary on the northwest side, same thing, whole bunch of pedestrian bump outs and lowered speed limits. We implemented an enhanced intersection or raised intersection but between the park and the school. Construction is just wrapping up on all of this right now. Saucedo Elementary on the southwest side and the Little Village neighborhood. Again, similar to Kelly High School, we implemented a raised crosswalk right at the entrance of the school. It's really had an important impact on making it safer and the school more accessible. So this is a big focus of ours, and will continue to be looking at schools and parks and making a series of traffic safety improvements. We've done a whole bunch of work on Milwaukee Avenue. We have an existing project right now south of the Logan Monument, where we are implementing protected bike lanes in the Logan Square neighborhood from Logan down to California. That's under construction right now. I was out there this morning. They've started striping the protected bike lane. Some of the concrete elements have been built. And then south of California, where we have an existing protected bike lane, we've installed additional concrete curbs and are just finishing up about either 4 or 5 bus boarding islands or in-lane stops where the protected bike lane gets routed behind the bus stop. This graphic here is highlighting a project that'll happen next year at Milwaukee and Erie. If you guys are familiar with it, it's right by the Ohio feeder. That intersection at where Erie meets Milwaukee is just a really, really large intersection. And so through a resurfacing project, complete streets project, we'll be implementing upgrading those existing protected bike lanes with concrete curbs and really changing the geometry of the Erie intersection. I mentioned some of the ability to reduce the crossing distance by 25, 30%, 50%. That has a huge benefit. This location, we're able to reduce the crossing distance by 70%. So really a big overhaul of that area. And really looking forward to that. That for anybody who's biking on and walking on Milwaukee, you'll be familiar with that intersection, and that's going to be a great thing to see. Belmont, a ton of great work happening, or that has happened east of the Blue Line station, east of Kimball. That's going to continue. That work is going to continue west of the Blue Line station, starting this fall and next year with protected bike lanes, pedestrian improvements between Kimball, connecting up with Milwaukee. So we've got a whole bunch in here. Again, I could go on forever talking about this stuff, but the end of the document, this appendix, is where you've got, this is a good resource for folks if you want to really get into the weeds on some of the analysis that we've done, looking at traffic crashes by month and time of day, time of year, some of the vehicle maneuvers associated with these crashes, and a whole lot of information, hit and run crashes and prevalence of hit and run crashes, street classification, where the types of streets where crashes are happening, intersections versus mid-block, age groups, types of vehicles. And then we've got a lot of information here broken down by all 50 wards, and really documenting the types of crashes that have happened in every ward across the city. So with that, I'm probably over time, Alex, but happy to answer any questions or have any discussion on it.
Thanks, Dave. You did great. Actually, I see two questions. One of them was pretty sure referencing to when you're talking about left turn lanes, and the question was, won't roundabouts help with that? Looking at Carmel, Indiana.
Yeah, that's something that we've done and continue to do, particularly on residential streets, in terms of roundabouts on like arterial streets. That's something that we don't have many of those, if any, in Chicago, but we're certainly paying attention to places like Carmel, Indiana, and others that have been doing this, to see if there's locations that where it's feasible and would make sense. So that's definitely something that we're keeping an eye on.
Cool. I see two more questions. One of them is there any schedule for Milwaukee Avenue from Division to North Avenue protected bike lanes? The resurfacing a few years ago left it as it was prior.
So that section, kind of through the heart of Wicker Park, there's no plans right now for protected bike lanes. We obviously implemented protected bike lanes, if you're familiar with it, north of North Damon intersection up to Western and Armitage area, had existing protected bike lanes north of there. Bus boarding islands are under construction, and then a new protected bike lane north of California up to the Logan Monument. And then south of Division, we have existing protected bike lanes. So that section, Division to North, is one of the most challenging sections along Milwaukee Avenue. We're certainly interested in it, and there'll be more information, I think, coming probably next year, but we are interested in ways that we can work with stakeholders in the community, the Chamber of Commerce, businesses, et cetera, to re-envision that section of Milwaukee Avenue. I think uh, there could be some really interesting conversations with and some big ideas for that segment. It's such a big, dense business corridor, tons of activity. It's certainly one that is top of mind for us, but there's no firm or hard date for something happening at this point.
Thanks, Dave. Got a few more questions coming in. Uh, Often at neighborhood meetings about traffic safety, CDOT will ask people what people would like to see and provide post-it notes and other means of commenting. I just want safer streets. Is the intent in asking this question in those meetings to be able to say we asked uh people specific when people specified raise crosswalks, protect the bike lanes, lower speed limit, or do you just want people to speak up and say that they want safer streets and uh see that will decide how to best achieve that? So that's a kind of loaded question.
Yeah, I am reading the question because there's a lot there. See that often in neighborhoods meetings, see that ask people what they like to see. Is the intent. Okay, so maybe I'll just take it from like standpoint of what are effective ways to like advocate for these types of improvements at meetings. I think that from a community standpoint, like showing up to meetings, communicating with the ward offices, with aldermen or alders is critically important. Um, I think for us, and advocating for like specific types of improvements, like protected bike lanes and raised crosswalks, you know, lower speeds, 100%, absolutely. Something that is really helpful for us from a design and planning perspective is to really understand the on the ground experiences of people. Um, in it, we've got a whole lot of data here that we can comb through and look through. But it's also critical that we're combining that quantitative aspect with the qualitative aspect or the lived experience. And so oftentimes it can be, I think, really powerful from a community perspective to be talking about the sort of qualitative aspects of this is what I experience every day. This is what me and my family go through trying to cross the street. This is what we see, so that then we can really tailor the solution to the experience and to the specific problems that people are experiencing.
Thanks, Dave. I'm gonna make sure we have enough time for Kiana to go through her presentation and for a question for her too. So I will get back to questions for Dave after Kiana's presentation. So thanks, Dave, for answering those questions.
Yeah, no problem.
And then for Kiana, just to give a little bit brief about Project Sidewalk, it is a free online tool that people can use to crowdsource and collect data on sidewalks and bikeways accessibilities. So it's a good tool for people to kind of use accessibility for and advocate for accessibility in the neighborhood. So I'll hand it off to Kiana.
Thank you. And that was a great presentation, Dave. So hello, everyone. My name is Kiana McKee-Steen. I'm the project coordinator for UIC's Institute of Disability and Human Development. I support Dr. Yohai Eisenberg, the program coordinator and lead researcher for UIC's Institute for Disability and Human Development. Today, I'm just going to share some insights about Project Sidewalk in our collaboration with ATA. So I'm going to share my screen. Let's see. Here. Okay. Here we go. So first, let me provide just a brief overview of our institute. The UIC Institute of Disability and Human Development works to advance the quality of life for people with disabilities through education, research, and community development and engagement. In particular, under this grant program, we are utilizing Project Sidewalk and researching how cities collect and use data on pedestrian infrastructure accessibility. Project Sidewalk was developed by the University of Washington Makeability Lab, and again is a free crowdsourcing tool that allows users to label sidewalk infrastructure and identify accessibility barriers by virtually moving through city streets on Google Maps. I'm going to play a quick video that should give a very clear representation of Project Sidewalk and its impact. So I'm gonna see. Is it going to play?
How does the sidewalk infrastructure impact your daily life?
I had to be very careful. I know getting over the sidewalk, falling down. Some sidewalk is smooth, little bit. Some sidewalk is wrong. I had to take more time to walk on this sidewalk.
Nearly every person will experience disability at some point in their lifetime. As it stands, around 16% of the world's population lives with some form of disability. It's been over 34 years since the signing of the Americans with Disabilities Act. Yet barriers persist across the board as many cities have not adequately addressed these accessibility issues. According to a recent study, a staggering 48% of sidewalks are not accessible to people with disabilities. Cities face a significant challenge in allocating funding to address accessible infrastructure. That's where Project Sidewalk steps in. Project Sidewalk is a free online, user-friendly crowdsourcing tool that transforms the accessibility of pedestrian infrastructure. It provides a convenient and efficient means to collect valuable data on the type and severity of barriers and the state of curb ramps, crossing signals, and crosswalks. Project Sidewalk has a proven track record of success, serving various users, including ADA coordinators, community organizations, city planners, educators, and community members. Chicago's 40th Ward integrated Project Sidewalk data, which ultimately helped make better decisions about prioritizing infrastructure spending and alert the appropriate city departments to high-priority accessibility issues. In Newberg, Oregon, community advocates and local government officials joined forces to map the sidewalk infrastructure, establish a new sidewalk renovation program, allocate funding for immediate repairs, and initiate 2 sidewalk accessibility grant programs for homeowners. Project Sidewalk can be a powerful tool for even one person. Community members passionate about enhancing the accessibility of their neighborhood can contribute valuable sidewalk accessibility data by creating an account and completing missions. The gathered data becomes a powerful resource to highlight infrastructure issues when advocating to decision makers. How do you see Project Sidewalk continuing to benefit individuals with disabilities in the future?
Making more sidewalk accessible for people with disabilities and getting more funding for sidewalks, which is all money put it on streets and the roads. It needs to be more focus on the sidewalk.
Developed by the University of Washington's Makeability Lab and in partnership with the University of Illinois at Chicago's Department of Disability and Human Development, as well as the Easter Seals organization, Project Sidewalk is a user-friendly solution for cities looking to enhance community accessibility. Join us today and help make our cities more accessible. How does the sidewalk infrastructure
Next slide. Thank you. So what brings me here today is the fact that we are collaborating with ATA to assemble advocates from across Chicagoland and the Chicagoland suburbs to participate in training sessions or mapathons on how to use Project Sidewalk to identify and assess accessibility issues in their neighborhood through the lens of pedestrian infrastructure, and with the collaboration with ATA, bike lanes as well. We are excited about this partnership and can't wait to make cities safer. What's expected through this initiative is 10 volunteer groups will receive a $300 stipend to support their advocacy efforts. However, more cities can still participate. It's just 10 cities will receive the stipend. Within the program, there'll be training and support. So participants will attend 2 virtual mapathons, one in December and the other in January, where they'll learn how to map and use Project Sidewalk. There'll also be optional check-ins where you can show us your progress and we can help you strategize on how to get this data in front of decision makers. The application is open now and closes on November 25th. And then, let's see. On this last slide, I just have links to everything and I'll include it in the chat. So yeah, any questions?
Thank you, Kiana, for the video and presentation. If anybody has any questions, feel free to drop it in the chat box. And she has dropped all the links in the chat box for people to look into as well. Can individuals apply, or does this need to be through groups?
Yeah, so individuals can apply. If we notice that people in the same area are all interested, we'll kind of get you guys together and then you can still individually complete the map.
Cool. Any other questions for Kiana regarding Project Sidewalk? Feel free to come off mute if you want to ask your question too. All right, not seeing any other questions.
Well, thank you for having me.
Thank you, Kiana. I'm just gonna share my screen again real quick just to go over a few slides. All right. So just want to give a thank you to Dave Smith and Kiana again for presenting on the crash report and on Project Sidewalks and the opportunities they're having. Uh, just gonna give a slide on hot topics for Chicago advocacy. So things that are happening, November 14th at 10 a.m. is the CDOT budget hearing at City Council. So that is a quarterly meeting the CDOT has. So if you want to kind of be involved with what other topics are being discussed at the budget hearing, feel free to join and stay on top of things. Other things to watch is the speed limit ordinance was passed out of the Pedestrian and Traffic Safety Committee, so it is awaiting full vote from City Council happening sometime before the end of the year. It's also the Smart Streets pilot kicked off this week, so that is a pilot that is looking at ticketing people who are parking in bike and bus lanes in the greater kind of downtown area. So that is a good way to kind of get people to stop parking in bikes and bus lanes for a few seconds or do drop off. So that's a good way to keep people safe on the streets. And then the last thing is save the date for December 3rd. Is the annual it's the active transportation annual member party at Revolution Brewery in the tap room from 5:30 to 8. And uh, just want to say thank you for joining us. If you have any questions, feel free to email Jim or myself with our emails there, and feel free to stay connected with Active Trans. We are recording this video, so we will post the recording on YouTube for anybody or yourself to kind of look at the video in the future. So I am gonna stop sharing. Um, And then I was just gonna get to any last questions. So I see one from Nicholas. How can we help ensure that speed limit ordinance passes? Um, I could just stay at top of that to reach out to your alderman, make sure that your alderman is supporting reducing the speed limit ordinance, and if your alderman is kind of in the more of the no say of supporting the ordinance, kind of make sure you reach out to your neighbors or other people who are in your ward, and kind of reach out to your alderman and say why you support the speed limit. So that's a good way to kind of get more advocacy from the local level and making sure that your alderman hears uh, how you feel about lowering the speed limit. Not sure, Dave, if you have anything to say about how do we ensure?
I can say
Oh,
a little bit more. Hey everyone, it's Jim from Active Trans. So yeah, it's keep doing what folks have been doing. We've had like over 1,000 people reach out to their aldermen like since the summer, which has made a big impact. And in addition to that kind of grassroots outreach that Alex was talking about, we've been doing a lot of like coalition work, kind of lining up different organizational support and getting them on record and making sure that aldermen are hearing about that, as well as always trying to get the word out through the media. We're doing some direct outreach to some key alders over the next few weeks. Um, Folks probably have noticed that the budget is a huge mess right now, and we're kind of in the middle of a really big fight. So, the speed limit ordinance and everything else is gonna gets kind of swept up in that drama. So I think right now, while we've heard from Alderman Laspada, who's been championing this, that he wants to get it done by the end of the year, I think that's really up in the air, to be honest. So definitely like stay tuned. Stay dialed into the Extra Trans social media channels and email and stuff like that. We'll keep folks posted as soon as we learn more. Like if we know a vote is going to happen. But I think right now we're going to use this kind of downtime to try and connect directly with some alders who, had some questions in the committee hearing and other things like that to try and shore up some more support. But I think big picture, we're definitely confident that like this is something that we're going to be able to get past. I think the timing is just a little unclear right now with everything else going on. So definitely, stay tuned and hold on to your hats. Alex mentioned, there's this the CDOT budget hearing is next week, and we're going to be putting out some more kind of communications, kind of talking about how it's important to look at the budget as a we're talking about like a lot of possible cuts, and Dave here probably can't talk about this stuff, but I can. So we're worried about we want to make sure that that our good friends at CDOT are getting the full kind of staff capacity that they need to keep doing all the good work that we heard about. And so anytime we hear that there's a hole to be filled in the budget, we're definitely worried about a loss of staff capacity when we think we really need to be adding more staff capacity and investing in what works. So that's something you'll be hearing about coming from us and other advocate organizations around the budget next week. And then kind of a separate but related issue is we have been blessed over the last couple of years to have, for the first time in a long time, some local capital dollars that the city has been able to spend on all these great complete streets projects that Dave was talking about, and the really rapid and transformational build out of the concrete curb protected bike lanes and curb extensions. I was just walking down Dearborn in River North, and I was like, "This is awesome." So that is another kind of part of the overall like funding puzzle, which is separate from the budget but related, right? And so that's a kind of another thing we want to keep ensure that we need to keep that money flowing through the Chicago Works program. So I think the good news is like we know it works, right? And we've got this great data now from CDOT showing that we're starting to make some progress and bend the curve on serious injuries and fatalities. But we're gonna have to be, kind of jockeying to make sure that our stuff doesn't get lost amidst the city's many other problems. And then another thing to also point out is, and in addition to the work on the city speed limit, there is kind of a parallel process of organizing going on at the state level. And so stay tuned, for updates on that. We also have, really strong and growing bench of champions in the Illinois General Assembly that are looking to get this similar kind of stuff passed on the state level, which we know, given the analysis that CDOT has done, that they're a huge part of the solution here as well. So a lot going on. We're not lack for any drama. But the good news is that yeah, we've got our ear to the ground, and we'll be able to kind of mobilize folks and update them on the speed limit and all this other stuff as soon as we learn more. But good time to be an advocate for sure.
Thanks, Jim. I mean, we're running down to the last 3 minutes. Just want to open it up for anybody who had any final questions to ask for Active Trans or any of the panelists.
Well, I'll just jump in real quick, Alex, and say thanks to Active Trans for hosting this and for inviting myself to represent CDOT and talk about the crash report. And thanks to all of you guys for taking the time to join this in the middle of the day, but also more importantly for all the work that you guys are doing every day throughout the year. I think the partnership between the city, Active Trans, you guys, city council, like it really is having a major impact in the transformation of our city and enhancing the quality of life for all of our residents and people visiting the city. So it has, as Jim said, it's a very exciting time. I look forward to that continuing and getting even more exciting and enhancing in the coming years. It's certainly something that as a department we're 100% committed to. So just want to highlight you guys and the partnership that we've all got going on here. I think it really is making a big difference. So thanks to everybody.
Thanks, Dave. And just want to reiterate thank you to both our presenters, Dave and Kiana, for coming today and speaking about what they've been working on. So thank you. Thank you for everyone who joined us today. And I'll give you guys a minute back to your Friday.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.